Welcome to The Saints, the City and Me, a podcast that delves into the fandom of the New Orleans Saints and its connections to the rich culture, history, and unique charm of the city. I'm Michael, also known as MKC Papa on social media. I'm joined by my friend and co-host Dan, aka Procrastinatus. Throughout the podcast, we'll be speaking to passionate fans from around the world, listening to their journeys of how they became fans of the team and the city, and discovering what exactly it was that drew them in. Join us on this exciting journey as we explore the intersection of football fandom, culture, and the enchanting spirit of the city. Welcome to the Saints, City and Me, and welcome to Mr. Ben Wright. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good, mate. Thanks for having me on. I feel like royalty being sat with you two guys here.
Hey, look, from a British point of view, we feel that way because obviously, you were a podcast host when me and Dan were fledgling children still watching the Saints.
Yeah. Well, that was it. That was. Yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah,
I'm sure.
I had to dust off. So can I come do a podcast? I was like, God, I have to find where my headset is and everything. I haven't used this stuff for a long time, ever since parenthood's come around for me. Really kind of died off the cliff a little bit. But no, thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh no,
I love your work. You've been reaching out to you guys, and you're doing a stellar job.
That's a pleasure, mate. Thank you for that. Dan, do you want to start off with your Saints news little section?
Saints news. So we only recorded.
By the way, we will get a some sort of blasting, sort of sing along Saints news thing. I think, Dan, don't you?
Yeah, maybe you can. You want to know, Ben? Mike used to sing in a band. We found this out when we was in New Orleans, and he kept it all quiet, and then he started showing us videos and photos of him singing at his friend's wedding or something. So he kept that one under his hat. But yeah, maybe you can sing that for us, Mike. Bless us.
Yeah. I don't think that'll be happening. Anyway, Saints news.
Saints news. So it's been a short week since we had our last podcast with Mark, but been a few bits going on. So number one that I quite enjoyed, Cam Jordan throwing some shade at Kirk Cousins this week at Von Miller's Pass Rush Academy.
That's glorious.
Yeah, so he said we love slow decisions. That we called them Kirk Cousins. So
yeah, it was. I think it was a slow right decision, weren't it?
Slow right decision. Yeah. So he was saying that as an edge rusher, even a quick wrong decision can lead to a good result. And he's just trying to highlight that if you take your time to make the right decision, you could fail because you're not off where you need to be. So, we always like Cam when he's good for entertainment. Obviously, the biggest news this week is mandatory minicamp that started. Taysom was there working with the QBs and the tight ends. I saw one article, I think it was Maddie Hudak put out that he looks like he's slimmed down a little bit. His top half of his body looks less tight endy and more hybrid running QB. So that'll be interesting to see how that stacks up.
I wish I could slim down like that.
You can try. Maybe doing these podcasts every week and drinking the amount of beer we've been drinking doesn't help.
No.
Derek Carr has been waxing lyrically in the short time he's worked with Alvin Kamara in mandatory minicamp. Saw some lovely videos today of some wheel routes that Kamara was running.
Yeah, he caught them, didn't he? It was just
go on.
No, I was just saying it was like if you saw the presser after the first day of minicamp where Carr was talking and he was waxing lyrical, wasn't he? It was that thing where he said about he ran a couple of routes and he turned to Jake and sort of went, that's just, you don't see that. What is that? Which, coming from someone of his experience, to sort of say that out in public about, who a person we all love and we all hope can get back to what he used to be.
Have you seen the rookie running back has gone a little bit viral because he's him standing behind Kamara like
where he was all a bit vexed up.
Yeah. Another thing, I had a brief Twitter engagement last night with Maddie actually on Pete Werner because she reported that he lined up in the slot with the defensive backs when they were doing their positional drills. So I asked her about that and she said he looked like he was operating in a dime formation. So potentially they're going to use that. It could be a potential for them to use that when they're blitzing. So that's interesting to see Pete doing that.
Wasn't there also something, because I think obviously he can be used in that type of coverage because of
he's quick. He's very quick.
Speed, his athleticism. So it's interesting to have people like that, and the Saints always try and find people who've got more strings to their bow, don't they? Something to keep an eye on, I suppose.
I don't know if either of you noticed this, but Ted Ginn Jr. was with the wide receivers yesterday. Doesn't sound like he's on staff, but it sounds like it was an experience thing for him. He wants to get into coaching, but maybe it's an area to keep an eye on because we have got a history of bringing in ex-players. If you think Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Zach, and then Jari more recently. So
yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine a room where Ted Ginn's trying to talk to Michael Thomas about hands?
Yeah, the first thing I thought, yeah, Ben, exactly the first thing I thought of was, I hope he's not teaching them how to like catch the ball. Maybe it's just like speed routes for Rashid and Alave, because obviously Ted's hands were
special teams
great. Yeah.
But
he had his best. Maybe this is another reflection on Drew Brees, because Ted Ginn had his most productive year with the Saints. So it just goes to show you what a player who's got a reputation for poor hands, what Drew Brees can bring out of them. So what he did bring out of them. And the other thing, and I think you listened to this earlier, Mike, Ross Jackson gave a breakdown on Isaiah Foskey's contract situation, and he was just highlighting that the more recently second round picks take longer to sign because it's all about the offset language, and they almost have to wait until they come down to work out how much guaranteed money they'll get in the third year and fourth year. So there's nothing to worry about there. And slightly off topic, they've announced a load of renovations for the dome, which look quite nice. I don't know if either of you've seen those.
Well, I think they're in. They're in their third stage of it, because I think for the last 2 years they've been doing it. So even when I've been over, I've seen slight improvements. And also when I can't remember when I was over there. I think it was when I was over there last. It was like for certain periods of time you have to come out of the actual dome to go toilet, because obviously sections of the area were already under construction. So I'm sure they're on there. I'm sure it's the third stage, because they're doing all that for the Super Bowl that they're going to be hosting.
Yes. Yeah, they've released, when I say announced, I should say they've released imagery of what it's looking like.
Yeah.
And just non-Saints, before we get into it with Ben, I just wanted to massive shout out to our friend Di, who came on our second episode. Di's partner gave birth to a beautiful baby girl last week, so lots of love and congratulations out to Di. I've been speaking to him. He's a very, very proud dad right now. So congratulations, mate. Well done.
And also publicly belated congratulations to Ben, because you had a little one not so long ago. So you know exactly what Di is going through.
Yeah, born in the middle of the football season. That was quite funny, because what was it when the Saints came to London? So my wife was, I think she was about 3 weeks from her due date.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, can I go to London and go on the piss for 4 nights and stay up there the whole time? You could be giving birth any minute. But
that is the perfect thing to do just prior to a baby's birth.
Yeah, I remember my system. I was ready.
I remember. Go on, Ben. Sorry.
I just drank so much that weekend. I was like, I'm done now. I'm ready for fatherhood. I just need to not drink anymore.
I was going to say, I remember you, I think it was at nightfall, just kept every now and then you'd go off and just check on her on your phone just to make sure she was okay. So you all right? That was a great weekend. We hung out a couple of times that weekend. It was fantastic. Really, really good weekend.
Well, it was an utterly superb weekend. That really was. But I mean, I think you're right, Ben. I remember after the 4 days of it, going home and literally thinking I was going to die, because it's like
a stag do, wasn't it?
It was like a double stag do, weren't it? It's normally a stag do. Anybody who doesn't know about the British stag do's, they're normally about 2 days, aren't they? It's like 2 big days.
I recently just had one where I had my brother and one of my good friends on the same weekend, so I split one night at each, and that was disgusting. So I had one down in Torquay. Then the following day, I had to get out of Torquay early in the morning and drive all the way up to Birmingham.
Oh, no. My experience of stag do's are because normally you go on a Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday.
Yeah.
Friday night is absolutely huge. I mean, absolutely everybody just goes 100 miles an hour at it. Yeah. You wake up Saturday, you're probably still half cut, but you have a beautiful day. The day is beautiful because you're sort of slowly drinking, having a bit of food, but by the time it gets to about 6 p.m, 7 p.m. on that Saturday, it doesn't matter where in normally Europe you are, God, it just descends into carnage from that point on.
One of the last stag do's I went on, we went to Norwich, It was a golfing weekend.
Legendary stag do state.
Yeah.
And the first Friday night, we obviously drove up, absolutely went for hell for leather. I was so ill, and I teed off on the first green, threw up in a bush, did another drive, and went, no, I'm done, and went back to my room. And that was the only golf.
You must have been pissed if you were teeing off on the first green.
Well, not on the first green, sorry.
Okay,
well spotted, Ben. Well spotted, mate.
I probably was. Yeah, there's all these like well-to-do blokes, and I just lean over and heave into a bush, and I was like, no, I'm done. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going. So yeah,
I think one week we'll do an after dark Saints City and Me podcast, but we won't talk football. We'll talk about British stag do's and what goes on and what carnage actually comes out of it.
Imagine taking a British stag do to New Orleans.
Yes. It would be like perfect for a British stag do in New Orleans. Bourbon Street.
On that note,
strip clubs, bars.
Are you thinking of having a rather large celebration in the city?
Yes, I am. So I actually never got a stag do because COVID screwed me over. So I was supposed to go to Split in Croatia for 4 nights. What would have been horrendous. So I'm kind of trying to speak to my wife. I was like, I didn't get a stag do, so I'm thinking of, me and the mates might do something big for my 30th. And so what are you doing? I was like, well, me and Ari, Mardi Gras or Jazz Fest. I'm not sure which one yet. I'm still not sure which one yet. So people, let me know. What should I do?
Yeah,
you guys have done both.
We've done both.
Yeah, me and Dan have been fortunate in the last sort of 2 years to go to both of them. So let's offer.
Or do I do Mardi Gras? Just stay until Jazz Fest and Jazz Fest.
I would know that. Mike would do that.
Yeah, I would say if it were me, I would probably go Mardi Gras purely because the weather is a lot different. And when we were over at Jazz Fest, if it's as hot as it was when we were over there, that in itself may create carnage. Because obviously, like me and Dan are, Ben, we can drink a little bit. But I think the first day that we went to Jazz Fest, it was absolutely roasting, wasn't it, Dan? And I think in the 6.5, 7 hours we there, I think we had 2 booze type drinks because you just thought, I can't do it. Because you've got no real shelter.
I'm going to caveat that because we did go out rather late the night before for the draft with the Saints Twitter podcast guys, and I was pretty drunk getting everyone drink tequila rosé and watermelon margaritas, frozen margaritas. So that probably impacted my drinking as well as the heat. But it is brutal. The heat is. There's no shade at Jazz Fest really, unless you stand like in the shelter of a toilet. And we did that, and the toilet started pissing out shitty water everywhere. I was like, I'm not standing here anymore.
No. Yeah, I found it a bit brutal purely because yet again, I think Danny is right that it wasn't like we were like, oh, we're going to go Jazz Fest, then we're going to have a lovely dinner and go back to bed and wake up refreshed the next morning. We were waking up hanging and then having to go to Jazz Fest. So but then having said that, that's exactly what you would be doing. So that's why it would probably be.
But we can give you, if you decide to Jazz Fest, we've got plenty of tips for that.
Yeah.
And Mardi Gras.
It's still an operation. I think it's about 8 of us. So it's
it will be quality. Yeah. It will be quality. Just a very quick side note as well. I know obviously Dan sort of wanted to congratulate Di. I want to give a little congratulations to Mr. Dan Harper because he had a little bit of a spread in the Canal Street Chronicle, didn't you, my friend?
Oh
yeah. Spotlight on a fan, and again, great from a UK Saints fan's perspective because it is spotlighting the fact that it ties in exactly with what we're trying to do, mate. So how did that all come about?
So that was I follow Tina who does all the work on Canal Street Chronicle, and she put something out about featuring fans, and I just thought. Normally, in the past, I wouldn't have put myself forward for it, but I thought, you know what, it's a really good opportunity to just highlight there's fans outside of the US and maybe get a bit more coverage for UK fans, and just to show that there are fans over here that are more than just people who buy a cap at an international game and then you shout "Who dat" and across the street and they haven't fucking clue what you're talking about, which has happened to me several times.
Yeah.
Happened to me at Lords. I did it at Lords, of all places, Lords. I just shouted "Who that?" and members are just like, "What's going on here?"
That is the wrong place to do it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I get what you mean there. But no, that was an awesome spread, mate. Well done getting that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it was good.
International.
Just trying to get it out there. I think the France stuff should help with the international presence more. Obviously, yeah, I'd love it to be the UK, but the France picking up the French.
It was always going to be France.
Was the perfect thing for New Orleans Saints.
And it always should have been. Absolutely. I know as UK fans, we would love them to have had those links with us, but looking at it from the angle of where should they have gone, absolutely right, they should have went there. And
Canada, because of
and
stuff. So but thank you, appreciate it.
All right, Dan, do you want to crack on with the questions, mate? I suppose.
So you probably worked out a format by now, Ben. What was first, the Saints or the City?
Very difficult, to be fair. Like, I think so. I'm going to show how young I am actually here now. So
don't do that. That's embarrassing for me.
I was at school, and we were doing projects in geography, and we're doing storms, hurricanes, and stuff like that. And the project that our group got given was Katrina. So I just started, doing my homework, researching Katrina and stuff like that. And then you just found out about what happened with the dome during Katrina and stuff like that. And I've always been a big sports fan. And so I was like, it's, New Orleans, the football team, people moved evacuated the dome and did horrific things that happened there. And I was just like, wow, I said, this is mental. This is absolutely crazy. And then I think it was like 2 years after that, they came over to London to play the Chargers, and my dad's a big American football fan, got tickets and said, "Do you want to go?" Which Saints? I was like, the Saints. I kind of know the Saints because of what I did at school with Katrina.
Sorry, Ben, just quickly on that. So were you not, I know you're saying your dad was an American football fan. At that point, were you not really that into it?
I was, but it's, I was what? 2007. I was 11, 12 years old. I wasn't staying.
That's depressing.
Sorry, I wasn't staying up at certain times to watch games and stuff. I'd watch like little clips on NFL.com when I was like, bored at school or something like that on the IT equipment or stuff like that. I watched clips like that. But I never actually really sat down and watched a full game until I think it was the season that my dad took tickets. I remember I thought, I must sit down and watch a full game. And I think I watched Seahawks versus Redskins game, and I was pretty hooked on it, but felt no affiliation to any team whatsoever. And then went to Wembley, Chargers, Saints. I had no affiliation to any team there until just went there, and the fans again, just blew me away from the ones that the Saints fans that I travelled over, the vibrant outfits, the music, throwing the beads around. I was like, this is an absolute party. I was like, I was about 13. Yeah. And then we were sat right in a nice crowd of people who had travelled from New Orleans before, and they just, got talking to us, and they said to me, do you understand American football? And I was like, no, not really, to be fair. It's my first ever time watching a game. They're really kind and just sort of spent their time to sit down and talk to me. I really wish I kept contact with them, but I just did back in those days. And they kind of explained all the rules and talking about the Saints, how bad the history was and stuff like that. And and I was just like, do you know what? I'm hooked on this now. And it was such an amazing game, and the Saints won it in the end. And it was just, I was hooked from there. And on the way out, I said to my dad, I'm going to buy a Saints jersey on the way back to the tube station. So I went and I think I've still got it actually. It was in the room next door. It was too big for me at the time. Now it's a bit too small for me. I was in between now. I've got a Reebok Jeremy Shopping jersey. So that's the only one that was still left there on sale. And I was like, I'm having that. So that's my first jersey, was a Jeremy Shopping jersey. And then since that was it. I was a Saints fan from there. Wow. I just followed the Saints.
Man.
I've got a Shockey jersey hanging up in here.
Yeah, you're signed though.
Well, it's actually, to be fair, it's not a real jersey. It's one of these ones where they sign the number plate and stick it on. But yeah, I like Shockey, and I really enjoyed. I don't know if you've listened to the 28 to 3 podcast. They got into they were doing almost like a pick your best ever Saints team, and you could have anyone in their prime. And at tight end, they really got into it between Shockey and Jimmy Graham, because they were saying Shockey could do everything, whereas Jimmy was just so explosive under Drew Brees. And
it was definitely Jimmy. Like Jimmy was like my the first non-Drew Brees player that I just fell in love with. Like,
Yeah.
completely.
I mean, but that's exactly why the 28-3 pod that Dan was talking, that was why it was so great, because yet again, most people probably straight off the bat would say Jimmy, but they were actually giving really, really good arguments as to why it might not be him. And that's what made it really interesting, because I think most Saints fan, if you went, all right, let's go down the greatest Saints team in, and Ben, I'd recommend listening to it, because there were quite a few examples like that where you thought, oh, it will just be absolutely easy for them to pick.
Yeah.
But there was actually really good, genuine debate about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, obviously, the pre-Peyton and Breeze era, and I don't like when fans get knocked saying, oh, you weren't a real fan because you weren't here, you were only here after Peyton and Breeze. It's like, well, yeah, look at my age. How long Peyton and Breeze have been here.
Yeah.
And look, and especially international fans, look at the market back then. Look how hard it was to get a hold of any content back then. And now content's there. So obviously you're going to get fans that are there post, well, during the Peyton and Breeze era. And yeah, people who kind of try and knock them down for that, I just think it's one thing that on Saints Twitter that really winds me up. But like, you could have a kid who's 20, and he won't remember.
It's a perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't mean he's not a die-hard Saints fan. Like, it's what it is. Man.
So your sounds, actually, funny enough, the way you put in there, you did say it was an interesting question, because your sounds like it was actually mixed.
Yeah,
your intrigue was sort of triggered by the work that you obviously did at school, and then you just had the opportunity because of your dad to go to a game, and it was almost like there was and
it was the fan culture in the stadium.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, because God, for the city and for the organization, actually, sometimes they should listen to stuff like this, because the fans of that team, basically, they sort of inducted you into becoming a Saints fans. They recruited you. That they were the recruiters. Yeah, again, what me and Dan talk about, the beauty of the people, the city, the culture, everything they do, And so you're sitting in a stadium with no affiliation, and some people from the city basically recruit you to become a fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or
at that age, groom you.
At that age,
I'm joking.
Yeah, one of them worked for the BBC.
Oh God, yeah. Let's really move swiftly on.
So let's fast forward several years. You took a decision with a couple of other guys to actually launch what I think was, as far as I'm aware, the first UK Saints podcast. That was yourself, Ash Pinball, Newport Dragon, and Ryan, who I don't think I've got on Twitter anymore. But I met you guys all at the Dolphins game. How did that come about?
So that came about really, like, I was just, still massive diehard Saints fan, from like I said, from that time back at the Wembley game, every season I got into it more and more and more and more. And then they announced that they're coming back over to the Dolphins. And I was like, this is such a good time, where the international games over here grew so much in between that time. The Saints came. The Saints Chargers the second game, and the next one was it's been about 10 years, 9-10 years since the Saints played. So it grew massively. We're doing 3-4 games a year now, and you saw how other fan bases connected with each other. UK fan bases connected with each other over here, and Ash did that with Big Easy Mafia. What was great, it drew so many people into one place. That's how I met so many good people like Mark Bailey, Elliot Hurst, you guys, and I just got to know people like that. And I said to Ash, and I was just exchanging on Twitter to him, and I was like, I think we need to have a voice, not just a fan page. Like, let's do a podcast. It's going to be completely different from any other Saints podcast out there, because we're not in America, we're not in Louisiana. Like, this could be something that fans could rally around in the UK. So we set the podcast up, and it did really well. We met loads of Saints fans. I think quite a lot of Saints fans brought Saints fans together. So it was a really good show. We then got chatting with other podcasts out in the States who were just blown away, and journalists in the States that are blown away by what we were doing. And so we ended up doing a merger with the Dome Patrol guys, just to kind of split the work, and we had a really good chemistry with them, and that was fantastic. A couple of years that I did that with them, and then I just kind of took it as far as I could probably take it. I started, me and my wife got married.
You started didn't you start a new job?
I started a new job, and I was retraining, so I was like re-educating myself. I came back to school at the same time as doing it. I just didn't have the time. And I'm not going to lie, and this probably sounds really bad of me, but the no call just did something to me where I just generally just went, because I used to sit there and watch every catch in OTA and mini camp and start getting excited when they put in pads on, and then it just kind of just popped a little bit of a bubble in me. But don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love the Saints, but I couldn't have that same level of dedication going forward. Not when I had so many other things going on in my life at the same time.
Yeah.
And
we know loads of people like that, don't we, Dan? There are people who
I
actually
can't describe it. It's just
but it's like they advocate for literally not letting it take over your life, because you get things like the no call, which can
ruined me for days.
We know people who've given up their season tickets on the back of it. I didn't. I was supposed to go to because we was obviously at the game. Came back, I had tickets to go and see the Super Bowl, and I was like, no, I'm not going. Don't want to go.
What was that, the one at the night?
No, I was meant to be going somewhere else because a few guys went to know the bar, didn't they? Travelled up, even though we wasn't in it. But I was
just one of our parties, and I just didn't turn out. I was just so deflated by it. I was just, and it killed me. But so I kind of couldn't give a time anymore. Jeff, Jason, they're absolutely top quality guys, and like they do a really good show. And I just found there's enough people there that I could take a step back. I did last season, but obviously where I had my little one, and I was still hosting an instant reaction show, brought an instant reaction show to the network. But the little one, I just couldn't do it.
But also with that, because that one was transatlantic, you also have the time difference, which means obviously the little one, it's like you can't.
Well, that's why I came up with that's why I came up with the idea of the instant reaction show, was so we could get something straight out after the game, and people UK fans could wake up and it's there for their commute to work. Well, I quite like the idea of, it's fresh in the memory. It's a good show, and I'll still listen to the reaction show next year. And it was just
me and Dan could never do an instant reaction show. I'd say 62% of the time we can hardly talk to each other. So
it does get a bit hairy on it, but no, it was good. But no, it was whenever my time to go, and wish them all best of luck.
Well, I think you've definitely you've had a really positive influence on the UK fan base for the stuff you've done. So I do thank you for starting that podcast and the things you did. And one of the I'd like to say one of your best achievements was you got Thomas you yourself got Thomas Morstead in for an interview on.
I've got to give credit to Jeff Duncan for that.
Jeff Duncan,
Mark Bailey, introduced me to Jeff, and we got chatting on one. There was one summer where Jeff was over here for a period of time. It was actually when he was, he wrote most of his patent degrees were actually in London when he was on vacation over here. So we met up with Jeff for dinner one night, and he said, "Look, do you want to speak to Thomas Morstead?" I didn't speak to Thomas Morstead, and that kind of gave me Thomas's email address, and I reached out to him, and he was like, "Wow, I couldn't believe it! Like, seriously, he's got UK ties." I had a good chat with him, and I emailed him again once, when he left the States, and said, "Look, thank you so much for everything." And he replied, "Say, yeah, top, really appreciate it." So that's a really cool experience, and I feel like I kind of jinxed him a little bit, because I was like, you're here for a long time. He goes, "Well, I just hope they don't draft the punter." It was just before the draft, and then they went and drafted the punter. And Gilligan's still here. It's not, but
it's not often you get I say this, you'd like to think it's not often that punters have such an emotional connection with a city and a team, but Morstead, I think his family still live in the city when he's off season, and I think the Saints fans still love him. I would have had him back last year. I think Gilligan was a little bit off, and Morstead looked good. Shame he had to go to the Falcons for work, but he's not there anymore. But it's a business.
I don't know maybe if we were too pull the trigger on that or not. But I've got my own views on the structure of this team and what's happened since Peyton's gone. So,
sorry, Dan. Just for me, going back a little bit about the the influence of what you guys did when you started your podcast. And, you know, me and Dan we do know it, but we weren't really aware of it because you guys sort of created WhatsApp groups for Saints fans. And, you know, there are lots and lots of people in there. And I remember I think for the no-call game, you were still part of that WhatsApp group at that time.
I was still in there.
Yeah. And I was in there at the same time. That to be fair, even though me and Dan were sort of aware of each other, that's introduced me to a number of other people who I now am sort of friends with. Yeah. And it was only because of what you guys all did together by creating that WhatsApp group, by creating all the stuff that you're doing for the Saints in the UK, that I've actually got to know a couple of really good people. Mark Daly, that was my first interaction with Mark, was via that group. So, I give props where props needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wasn't one of my ideas. That was another member of the group that came up with that idea. And, it's great when you can come together and collaborate and come out with products like that can just unite the fan base and everyone on the side. And people obviously don't, sometimes get on with each other and stuff like that, with different opinions. But that's great. We're in a society where we can express those opinions together and we can create conversation. We can create a fan base. Fandoms, fanatics. That's what we are. And there are plenty over here, and you can tell from those groups.
And people fall out. I mean, Dan left that group because he had a bit of a barney with someone in the group and was like,
it wasn't such a barney. He irritated me.
Yeah.
He's okay. Let me rephrase that. His over enthusiasm, I struggled with because it was ping, ping, ping all the time, and I was like, I can't do this. And that's great that someone's like that. It just didn't work for me with my phone, work.
And that's the best thing. Everyone, we weren't tied down to it. It wasn't like a paid fans forum. It was just a very simple, let's just play a WhatsApp group. But no, hats off to the team.
But it was great when we was over for the NFC Championship games because we were sending pictures back and people saying, "What's it like?" And
that's the best thing about it, I think. Yeah. People when they're out there sharing their experiences back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, funnily enough, it's a weird one. Like we're going over to the States in November for the Bears game, and one of me and Dan's good mates, Alex, that's where I met him, and I've been to America with him, and you know what I mean. It's just that it's the community over here, and you were right in what you said because when you were setting up the podcast, there's obviously a market for it. But the really sad thing, I think, is that all these years later, the Saints, the UK Saints fans are still not completely represented in the way that other teams are in this country.
Not in a cohesive one place.
No, I think we all know, and it was very well sort of. I think it was Jackson actually. Was it him who came or Jeff? I can't remember which one. After the game, put something out on their social media saying the Saints have done. The Saints know they screwed up this weekend. They know they shouldn't have done more because there are.
That was all on the back of Mr. Dan over there. Dan was the one ripping shit out of them.
Again, caveat: I'd been drinking. We went to the Jeff Duncan media night.
Yes, that was the media night, wasn't it? Yeah.
So we went to a media night in West London. It was Jeff Duncan, Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, and Juice was there. And I asked, I'd had a few drinks and I got a bit brave and took the mic and said, why aren't the Saints interested in fans? Because they're not doing anything for us in comparison to what anyone else is doing. And, I think we'd collectively, a few of us had put tweets out the day before. And I think Juice said the team had a meeting today and said, we screwed up. We didn't appreciate how many people here wanted to interact with us.
I think we all got so excited. We've seen what other teams have done with their fans over here. I think everyone got very excited when the Saints were going to do something like that, and it just kind of flagged. But that's what happens. Let's hope they learn, and next time they come back, they do. You can only, people make mistakes. If they learn from it, great.
But that's also part of what you were saying earlier about that's the good thing about what they're now going to have to do in France, because they're going to have to, it's going to be France, but they're going to have to focus on Europe. So there will be a spill, I think, from the fact that, and obviously, hopefully we'll be interacting with Saints France and all that sort of thing. So you just hope that through their work over there, they'll realise actually there is more work to be done in Europe, not just in the UK, but in Europe, because they've
I
got.
think they've been very slow to realise how people digest the game now. People don't sit down on, not everyone sits down on TV and watches, back to back Red Zone all night, or tunes into a Saints game and goes into the next game, People like have got short attention spans these days. The age of the digital phone and stuff like that. People just want to see the product then and there. They can go onto the NFL app and get game in 30. They want to consume it that way. They can get the game in 2 or 3 minutes and consume it that way. I just think they didn't realise that the way that fans are consuming the game over here and how big it actually is. But like I said, they can make mistakes, and let's see what happens next time they come back round, and we'll see if they can rectify those mistakes. I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah, I think we've definitely learned from it, and I think I at the time I was like, got to interact with the Saints as a team because that's how we're going to get them to do something for us. But Rich, in hindsight, if we probably had reached out to the beat writers, the Jeffs and the Ross Jacksons and Nick Underhills and John Hendricks and those guys, we may have made a bit more noise in the facility with them guys saying, do you know, we're hearing a lot of stuff from UK fans. What are you doing? And that might have spouted something. So that's something to think about in the future, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they know we're here now. I think
they
know we're here now. So.
Yeah. Well, Repo, Alex, I don't know his surname, but Repo, he came down to Ninth Ward and saw us all there. So he knows that there's a fan base here. So
Ben, going back now to, obviously you've spoken about how you became a Saints fan, which, as you said, was a mixture of the city and the team.
Yeah.
What was your first experience of going over to the city? When was that?
So that was in 2017. Was it 2017? Yes, it was. So it was the
November.
Just after these. It was It was just after the draft. With Lattimore, Kamara. So it was the same season that actually they played the Dolphins in London, and I went to go and see the very famous 34-31 game against the Washington Redskins.
What a game! What a game to be introduced to the Dome at.
Do you know what? That game was just because I always heard it was close to the end, and I was like, my missus just bought a first house and stuff like that. We're just trying to get money sorted, and I was like, I need to go and see the game in the Dome of prime Breeze and Peyton. Might not be in prime Breeze in 17, but we were still a heck of a team.
Yeah.
And I think that game, just trying to look at some of the stats earlier, Drew Brees, 385 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was just ridiculous, that game, from how far down we were. So what was it? Yeah, so 10-0 in the first quarter, and went to 17-30. Yeah, Washington just absolutely pummeled us. And then in the fourth quarter, 18 points to 7. It was just the most remarkable comeback, and then winning it in overtime. But the worst thing was the Dome was half empty. People cleared out, and my wife was just kind of looking at me as like, we're actually meeting Mark Bailey in the quarter actually afterwards for a few drinks, and she was like, shall we just go and make sure we get a table and stuff like that? And I said, no, I should. I was like, we've come all this way. I'm just going to sit in the seat and just soak it all up, and we'll just see what happens. I think I had the whole road to myself, and then it just starts happening. Kobe Fleener just turns into a beast. Like, one of the only games, Kamara did an incredible juggle catch. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah.
It just went off. People were trying to pour back in, and it was just. And then we won the toss, and as soon as we won the toss, you knew we were just going to go straight back in the field goal and win it, because Washington's defense just absolutely gassed them. We couldn't do anything, and that was the Kirk Cousins Washington where that was. But yeah, that was just such a good experience. I was in the city for just over about a week. I think I was there for. We did a Pelicans game at the same time. Obviously, my love of the Pelicans came through the Saints. I wasn't a big basketball fan, and then the Benson Zone Pelicans. There you go. Yeah, the Benson Zone Pelicans. Well, I guess I've got an NBA team now too. A cursed NBA team, but an NBA team.
So it was you and your wife who
me and my wife,
yeah. And so what sort of stuff did you get up to when you were over there? I mean, all right, not what sort of stuff. Your first night? Did you get there daytime, evening?
Evening time. So
right. Did you go out the first night when you arrived, or did you?
Yeah. So
what was that like?
You were talking about a couple of shows ago. You were talking about this bar because I was staying. It's like near the warehouse, the warehouse. It's near the World War II Museum. Oh, what hotel did you stay at?
I think Hilton Garden Inn. I think I stayed in.
I think it's something like that. Yeah, I think it might be. And just round the corner of it, this little like
corporation bar. Yeah.
Yes, I remember just going there and we just had a few beers in there and we just watched the Pelicans versus Raptors game on TV. That was our first sort of experience. Like we walked into the quarter and I was quite tired and I was like, you know what, I'm just happy having a few beers here. That's some very, just the atmospheric supposed to just amazing. I just loved it. And I was like, you know what, I'm more than happy just to stay here and have a few beers here tonight. So that's what we did the first night. And then, we kind of went out. We kind of did trips like into the bayou.
I've never done that. I haven't done that yet.
With a lot of tourist stuff. So any locals, I do apologise.
But we've again, Ben, we've spoken about this on the pod. It's like there is no.
It's like when they all come to London. It's like you better happen.
There's no way a first timer in any city around the world. You go to New York, you're going to do every tourist thing that you're told not to, but you do it. And it's the same when you go to any city, and when you go to
Bourbon Street wasn't really, my missus is
cup of tea.
So we ended up in Frenchmen Street quite a lot.
My man.
Frenchmen Street.
Mike ends every night in Frenchmen Street.
Yeah, did the World War II museum. We did loads of stuff. Did the old steamboat jazz cruise down. Nice. Down Mississippi. So we kind of just made a little day. I went to see a Pelicans game as well. So we kind of really threw it in. I was really gutted actually when I went there. How disappointed I was with I was expecting to max a credit card out in like a pro shop, but there was like a very tiny, like my local golf shop's got more stuff in it than like the shop at the Dome had. And I was hoping they would maybe done tours of the Dome and stuff like that, but I couldn't find anything like that when I was out there. But no, I just kind of walked around the city, enjoyed the food, Cafe de Monde for breakfast,
Did you say Mark and Lisa were out there at the same time?
Yeah, we got very, very drunk the night after the game.
That wasn't the policeman fall over drunk.
No, it wasn't that night. It was the same, we met in the same bar. So, Pat Ryan. So we were in there. Went to Juice's place actually, and did Juice's place, did Manning's place. It's kind of just enjoyed the quarter for it's lovely temperature weather-wise, and then had the best time at the game to kind of wrap the week up. And it's quite funny actually coming out of the game. So this also we were doing the podcast then, so I had a little bit of a following on Twitter, and TalkSport journalists. TalkSport's like the main radio station for sport in the UK, and Will Gavin saw my tweet from the stadium with the UK flag, and he was like, oh my God, you're at the game. So they did an NFL show, didn't they, during the evening, during like 8, 9 o'clock in the evening in the UK, doing an NFL show, just doing like scores from the early games, sort of live dipping to the late games, and just like calling each other fans. And they said, can I call you? So I was literally walking up to the quarter on my phone, live broadcasting back on UK radio, talking to Will Gavin about that game, and I was like so hoarse and like try not to swear. I was just so pumped from it, and
that's incredible because that's one of the biggest radio stations in the country. So,
I couldn't believe
incredible.
When I got him, follow me and I slide into my DMs. It's a bit weird, but slid into my DMs like, can we contact you and talk to you about your experience in the Dome today?
Brilliant.
That game's just absolutely crazy. So,
to be fair, Will Gavin is one of the leading NFL journalists in the UK, NFL reporters in the UK. Yeah. So to get that attention is great. This was back
in his early days as well. This was so. It was really.
You made him, Ben. You made him.
I made Will Gavin.
That was the radio version of his Emmy.
Yeah, exactly. Just me. He can get stacked with me. But no, that was still one of my favourite trips. And the worst thing was, I haven't been back to the city since. But my wife has been back 3 or 4 times since.
Wow, really?
Oh, really?
Because she was an air hostess for a share. So she used to always bid for New Orleans, and it's quite a hard route. You always they used to bid what routes they want to go on. New Orleans is very popular, obviously. So when she used to get it, and you fly out there, do like 2 nights, then fly back. But it never really worked with my work schedule for me to get back out there. And I'll be a broken man after 2 nights.
Yeah.
I'm
going to ask you a little technical thing. Have you got a light that you can shine? Because literally we can't really see you at the moment.
That's the idea.
Sorry, bud. That's the one. Oh, there he is.
There I am. Yeah.
I can see that you've got a suntan and you were wearing sunglasses, mate. Is that why you had the light down? Yeah.
You ever watched Taking Me Over with Billy Gunn? You'll see this is the look.
So you loved your first time out there.
Oh, I loved it. COVID got in the way of going again. I did have in the basket on Nola No Call night again tickets to go back out there again. Had hotels booked, ready to go for the Super Bowl.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
what to go? All right,
to watch it in the quarter.
And because that's what me and Dan have this conversation quite a lot.
I asked Mark it as well, didn't I, last week?
And he said he would go. He would try and get to the Super Bowl. But then it does. I'm the same. I sort of think I would pay anything to see the Saints in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There comes a limit. And like where we're now talking about, if you're talking about 12.5 grand for a ticket, well, I'm not going on my own. Well, I would, but you sort of think, oh,
I didn't have that exposure to sort of throw away. So I didn't do it. Obviously because of what happened, and then I was planning to kind of go next couple of years. COVID happened, and then suddenly, bam, marriage, kids. Like, oh shit, when am I going to get back out there?
Yeah.
I think I would definitely, if we made the Super Bowl and I couldn't get Super Bowl, I would definitely go to New Orleans to watch it.
What I said.
Without doubt.
I think we could travel quite deep as well as a UK contingent out there to do it. I think we could.
Absolutely. 4 nights or something out there. Or
oh god, yeah.
Something else.
Well, that's what I'm doing in October, in November. I'm flying in on Thursday and I'm flying home on Monday. It's like in and out, get to hang with the guys, watch the game, and come home. And I just deal with my kidneys and everything after.
I got my best mate, he's a big Lions fan. And we were pricing up Lions game.
Yeah.
And I was just like, next time the Lions come back to the Dome, I think we're going to go out together and do because he wants to go to the city, he's never been to the city, and he's like, if I'm going, but as a road fan, if I'm going anywhere, I'm going to New Orleans. So, but no, I will get out there again soon. It is annoying. My missus really wants to go to New York Christmas time, so I'm waiting for us to get the Jets and Giants around Christmas.
You can meet Dan over there. He'll be there. His wife won't let him go to Florida.
I've literally just booked it. so using my air miles. Yeah,
I am planning to get out and do a road game as well.
But we did a road game. It's really good fun.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to do these things. You've got to experience things.
It's such a. I think we sort of have experienced it from the London games that multiple fans been in the same place and that it being quite harmonious. You couldn't do that for soccer, but you could literally buy a ticket anywhere in a stadium for the NFL, probably with the exception of the Eagles.
Yeah, they've been the worst fans I've seen come to London. Like when they came for the Giants game in New York on Super Bowl, obnoxious pricks going, couldn't stand them. And then a few weeks later, we battered them.
Yeah.
So that was fun, but no, this season, I'm not sure.
We'll get to that. We've had some positive predictions from our previous 2 guests. How they think things are going to go. Ben looks a little less optimistic.
We'll get that. That's when we're winding it completely down. But I think obviously, I think a couple of things that we always ask people is, have you got a favourite sort of local beer or a cocktail or a drink? I mean, there's no harm in saying, you were saying about Pat O'Brien's. If it's a hurricane, that's what it is.
Yeah, that definitely is. Like, also, is it Purple Haze?
Yes.
Yeah.
Purple Haze was nice when I was out there, and
we drink a lot of that, don't we, Dan?
I tried some of what's the name? What was the Street had a brewery, didn't he?
Port Orleans Brewery.
Port Orleans, yes. Tried something there, and obviously I had a load of Dixie in there shipping them over here.
Yeah. We all did, didn't we? I
all
think
got
someone
loaded,
put it on that a online. I don't know if you around there, Mike, but they put it on that there was this online beer shop had a bash of Dixie, and we all steamed into
Killed it. It was sold out instantly. And then they stopped doing it. Shame. I think I still got a bottle of something actually. I think I kept the bottle. But yeah, that's my local. That's my favourite New Orleans drinks.
So when I was in
the Ninth Ward, the first meet up with the Ninth Ward. This was before the Saints. This was a couple of years. This was, I think.
Yeah,
I think
you was at this. I didn't go. You was at.
No,
my son's
I was
birthday.
there. That was.
This is when we drunk the bar dry.
Yeah. Literally, completely dry.
And I got almost kicked out for standing the table and starting who that night. Yeah.
We've got a remarkable picture from that night. It is an absolutely fantastic picture.
That was the Eagles. That was the Eagles. That was not for the Eagles Jazz game.
Yeah.
But if I go for a favourite drink in the UK, if you guys can get your hand on it, it's a local brewery near mine. I do quite a lot elsewhere as well. It's called Firebird Work Ethic.
Firebird Work Ethic.
Firebird, yeah. It's the brand's Firebird. It's an IPA called Work Ethic. Well, you boys have got a tremendous work ethic with the effort you're putting into this show. So.
I was going to give you so when we was there for Mardi Gras, I had a Bacchus Blonde, which came out of Streets Brewery. That was really nice. So if you're there if you do go for Mardi Gras, and they are doing, I don't know if that's a seasonal one, whether they just do it during Mardi Gras, but it's a really nice beer. I really enjoyed that.
Did you boys see off top of like Mardi Gras? Did you see like Fort Park, one of the big amusement parks over here, doing like a Mardi Gras thing?
Yeah, Fort Park's doing it. Yeah.
Have you boys been along to it, or?
I haven't. My wife told me about it.
I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah,
they're doing. It's similar to what Universal do. Universal Studios do a Mardi Gras period. Fort Park were doing it.
We might have to make a trip next year, maybe to it.
So are they just doing it in the middle of summer? Just like let's just grab it, let's appropriate it, and just do something.
They've got it on discount from Disney.
Yeah,
they're getting rid of it.
God.
We'll take your cast off.
But again, that is the kind of thing that we enjoy sharing, that kind of information, because that's kind of maybe we could do a meetup and we go for a Mardi Gras day, and it's fairly easy to get to Thorpe Park for people. It's just around the M25. We can all get there fairly easily if you're within the London orbital. So it's a really good suggestion. I was aware of it. I don't know how deep they go into it, but
but as you said, it's not a hard thing to get to, and it'll be worthwhile just having a little look.
Yeah, exactly.
Even to go to criticize it.
And watch Mike scream on rides like a big girl.
Mate, I'm of an age now where I can't even go on a swing.
The fact that you say you're of an age tells me exactly what age you are.
It helps that you know what age I am, but I can't even go. I've been on a swing, and I remember the last time I went on big rides, huge rides, I have no issue with. But little carousel rides and all that crap.
The teacups.
Oh no, teacups. I can't do
anything
teacups.
That spins, anything. Absolutely, I come off like I'm going to puke. I went to a festival years ago with a mate of mine, and they had a little fairground there, and we went on exactly that. We've been there 3 days. Obviously, we've been drinking and doing some probably stuff we ought not to have been, but we got on these teacups, and I think Paul Weller had just played that night, and it was great. It was a great thing, and so he came off. We were a bit lagging, and we got on these teacups, and you're there with all these people, and literally, I think we just came off and threw up, and it was nothing to do with the drink. It was about the fact that I was of an age even then where I just can't do that stuff.
I'm just gonna put in a notebook: do not take Mike to the carousel bar in New Orleans, because he won't be able to handle the pace that it moves.
Yeah, that you're probably right, mate. I'd struggle on it now. I really, really would. I find that now playing on my PS5. I think my reflexes are all good. But everything, my eye-hand coordination, my reflexes, they're slowly deteriorating. I just have to accept it. But Ben, anyway, let's get back to the actual.
Let's get back to it. Ben, who's your favourite Saints player, all time and current?
All time. It sounds so wanky, but it's Breeze, isn't it?
Yeah. We put in. It's weird. We tried.
I'll do like an all-time,
like an asterisk is Breeze, but then
Yeah,
if it wasn't Breeze.
If it wasn't Breeze, there's definitely. I did love Jimmy.
And Jimmy was right in your sweet spot as well,
Will,
as your fandom was coming up.
yeah, Will Smith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
I
player.
love Will Smith. Cam Jordan, Alvin. You know, it was the Alvin Mark duo that I just love.
It was just so much fun, even
It was
after a game.
it. Yeah,
The airheads and the ski masks and
yeah, exactly.
Let's just hope this boy comes back fully fledged.
Yeah, Michael Thomas as well is one of them. Yeah, there's a few. But yeah, no, I definitely think you can't go with Breeze. But next to Breeze, I'm not a player, but there's another thing.
I know, but it feels almost.
This is another thing that really winds me up about Saints Twitter and certain people. The hatred for Sean Payton, like I absolutely love that guy. Like I don't care that he wanted a break. He felt checked out. Cool. Guess what? I felt checked out in jobs, and I've quit my job. Like it happens. It's what they kind of expect us to pay millions. They're not going to feel checked out. He just lost. Like imagine you running a team and you lose your best employee. And you've kind of been there for so long, and then you can kind of see the writing on the wall. And everyone said, well, he made that writing on the wall by mortgaging the future and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, because we wanted to win. You'd moan if we didn't do it. So the slander Sean Payton gets is the thing that really, 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 really winds me up. And I was crying for him to come back in the off season. Like I've seen in other sports, me and Mike, we've seen legacy managers who stuck around too long. And I felt if Payton hadn't his breakout, recharge, I felt like Dennis Allen did enough to get fired last season. I really did.
Yeah,
and I think it would have been perfect bringing Payton back.
But on that one, it's funny. It's like because obviously it's all reactionary, isn't it? It's like, and we're all fans of or we're to lesser now degrees, but some still majorly. We're all fans of football in this country, soccer. And there are players who have left my favourite team where I'm venomous with them. I'm like, how over the period of time, and I'm talking players because obviously the way the transfer system works, over a period of time, you sort of, depending on where they went as well, I think is part of the thing. I think it subsides. And I think everybody realizes what that man did for us. But I just think at the time, people just vented frustration. But then also, from what we understand, the organisation themselves had the opportunity to bring that chat back, and they chose not to.
Yeah, and do you know what? If the Saints don't win the Super Bowl, I hope Denver win it.
Yeah, but then again, that's like.
Well,
Payton's one of the reasons I fell in love with the Saints. His style of football, his offense was just superb. It was so entertaining to watch. It was just brilliant for a new person coming in to learn the game, to watch the game. Watching Payton football was so exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting. And I love him for that. And that's why I put Payton up there with Breeze. I really do.
No, absolutely. And I think I think a majority of Saints fans would say that. Again, it's like we were talking last week about bad news, and bad news sells. And that's exactly the same on social media platforms. You only ever people only react to the stuff that's negative. So therefore that's amplified. So it goes onto every algorithm. So everyone sees it. There were plenty of people who are in the same boat as you, Ben, who were horribly supportive of Sean. And I'm supportive. Look, he's gone on now. He's doing his thing.
Let him do his thing.
But and it's funny you just to say that, because I think a lot of people have the same opinion on DA last year as you do. But my sort of question to you then about that is, so this off season, how do you think it's gone? Because I think the majority of Saints fans actually feel that this off season's gone pretty well. I'm not saying that's all DA, but I'm just saying, what's your opinion on the off season so far?
I think it's gone well. I think Derek Carr was definitely the right decision to go down. 100%. The draft looks good. We ticked a lot of boxes there. Michael Thomas coming back was a must. I did not want to lose Michael Thomas because if he is healthy, we saw what he did against Atlanta last season. I think we have on paper it looks great, but you don't win games on paper. You don't. We are in.
That trends on Twitter, mate. On paper, do you know that? for the Saints on paper.
On paper, yeah. But we've got one. We're in the weakest division, I think, of an NFL division that I can. Even though I don't think some of the AFC South have been this bad, like over the years, like it is there for the taking. Like
But yeah.
theoretically, we should have 6 wins in that division. Like we
Absolutely.
really should.
And yeah, again, listen to the national media, and people are blowing smoke up the Falcons' arses. They really are.
Yeah,
To a point.
They
To
are.
a point.
Yeah, but yeah,
The QB's crucial, and I just don't think it's good enough.
And who's most
unproven?
And that's the only reason why I think we're, the best.
You know what they're going to do with the Falcons? They're going to.
We've got the most stable quarterback.
Yeah, and do you know what the Falcons can do? They're going to run Bijan 300 times.
Yeah, ragged.
Smash his body to bits. And
Yeah, just like ACL week 2.
Yeah, just like the Panthers did with Christian McCaffrey. They're going to use him as a workhorse, and he's going to be knackered. And that's what they're going to do because their quarterback's not good enough.
But I really do worry about the offensive line of this team, though. They can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
I think something's really wrong with Ramczyk now. I genuinely think there's.
I think the knees
are there.
You're right. Yeah,
Ruiz was one of the only positives from last season. Like the way he came on, if he can build on that, great. But do I trust him? No. Eric McCoy, injuries again. Pete, enough said. Injuries, and then obviously, we don't.
Do you know? I was reading. So Ross Jackson suggested Mike and I read this book, Take Your Eye Off the Ball. If you haven't read it, Ben, I highly recommend it. It's really good. But he's got a chapter in there on the offensive line, and he talks about how valuable having an offensive lineman is who can go tackle, guard, and that is. I think James Hurst is crucial for us this season because he's going to have to fill it all over the place.
He was like Clemente from a few years ago. Clemente was like a brilliant guard tackle. He was, he got a nice little contract in the Texans after because of what he did, and that'd be good. But it's in the trenches that I am really worried about. I actually am.
No, I think that
I actually am really concerned about defensive line.
I think you're right to worry about it because also the thing about it is that there's obviously there's undeniable talent in certain areas on that O-line. But the thing about it is that firstly, availability, we all know about that. Secondly, penning, availability, and what's his talent level.
To me, that's crucial.
We don't know yet.
If he doesn't realise his potential, that is, he has
that's
to be
one of
the
the exciting
player.
things about this team this season as well. Like, there's a lot of question marks on there. We don't know exactly. I remember, everyone's talking about Rashid Shaheed, like he's that wide receiver streak. Do you remember we all thought about that Callaway? He switched his jersey number to 1, and what happened there?
He had me sold on that Jacksonville preseason game, him and Jamie. So I was like, "This is the guy."
And then this is it. So I'm not sold on the defensive line, offensive line, defensive line, and wide receivers. I'm not sold because we don't know what he's like. Well, he's picked a little bit of a knock at the moment, isn't he? So.
He's got a groin injury.
Hopefully that doesn't aggravate. They can take a while to recover those.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas, love him to bits. Can you rely on him? No. And then we'll see. Like I trust me, I do expect Chris Olave to explode this year. I really do.
Yeah.
But
I don't know yet. Again,
imagine if we get one injury to Olave.
Did you see what? I think it was. I'm trying to think. Was it Nick?
Underhill.
And he was saying he's buying all the stock.
Yeah,
but he's seen enough. For him, he's seen enough already in minicamp where he's like, I'm sold on the guy.
Yeah,
I mean, and again, it's easy to be sold on him because actually, for all intents and purposes, for what he was last year, he had a fantastic season.
Yeah,
as a rookie.
He did absolutely. And he was, like I say, he was also on the bright spots from last season. But there's just too many question marks for me to say, oh, we're winning 10 to 12 games.
No. Well, that's interesting because actually I think that should lead us into the bit where we actually ask you, Mr. Wright, exactly where are we going to be in this year? So let's get this little fixture list up. And now we're going to ask you the questions. Right.
Oh, God.
So obviously kicking off against the Titans at home. What is that, my friend?
That's going to be a win.
All right.
I put myself down.
Panthers away.
Lose.
Packers away.
Win. Nice early seed. Nice going up there right time of the year.
Yeah, you got to get up there to Green Bay early.
Yeah. Bucks at home.
Win.
Yeah. I mean, God, you're not sure about us, but I think we're all sure about them.
Oh, they are fucked.
Hey, look, Tralski's my QB2 in my franchise on Madden. So hey, leave it alone.
Yeah, but your QB1 is Caleb Williams, so there's a reason.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But if he picks up an injury, anyway, Patriots away.
I don't know about the Patriots yet.
They signed Nuke.
I'm gonna say lose.
Right. What we got? Texans away.
Win.
Jags at home.
It all depends on like health and stuff like that. Gonna go with lose.
Oh, okay.
I'd probably go an L there.
Colts away.
Win.
Where's it gone? Sorry, that's me. I lost myself and lost you. The Bears at home.
Win. I am worried about Justin Fields and our ability to tackle the quarterbacks.
The Vikings away.
Lose.
All right, with them, I think we got the bye week, and then it's the Falcons away.
Win.
Oh. Then we've got so the run of 3 games at home. We've got the Lions.
Win.
Go on, Ben. The Panthers.
Win. This is when people start believing.
The Giants.
Win. God, what am I doing?
All right, the Rams away.
He's in. We've got him in. He's sucked in.
Come on, the Rams away.
Lose.
They're going to be awful this year, I think. But anyway,
yeah, it's them and the Bucks are having a race to the bottom. I think.
And the Bucks away.
Win.
And finally, the Falcons at home.
Win. I think I got about 11 wins there.
Yeah, it's sort of you're not jumping on board the bus, but you sort of are with a 12-5 season.
Wow. Okay, because if you just said straight up record, I would have said 10-7.
But yeah, again, it's sort of the way it goes.
I think, I was going to say a couple of ones.
We have got a nice schedule on paper.
Yeah,
on paper.
Absolutely, absolutely, and then that's it. You can have your thoughts, and you're right. Your conversation on the O-line, I think, is essential. Yeah. I think it's absolutely essential because we don't know what that's going to be like. I mean, it could almost be stellar.
Yeah. 100%.
Or it could be absolutely awful, or it could be middling. That's the one thing about that O-line that as you're saying, is we have no idea what it's going to look like.
No.
We don't even, it's not like we can sit here and say, look, they're all healthy and it's just a bang average O-line.
Just be average, though. As our friend Adam says, if they're just average, let the rest of the team do it. Because Carr's better than what we had last year. So he can make average look better than what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what? It generally wouldn't surprise me if we win 9 games this year. And if we don't win more than 9 games this year, then Dennis Allen's got to go.
Yeah.
And then that is where you,
especially
also
the investment.
You shut the zero down. And
that's sort of the point Dan was making. I think it's not only you could say it's the financial investment, but it's also the investment in his ideas, because clearing out the coaching staff is obviously his idea. Bringing in the players that he now appears to be bringing in is his idea. It's literally now it's his franchise. Whereas he could have argued all day long last year, and probably quite rightly, this isn't my team. And so you give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh yeah, we know it's from our own teams over here.
Exactly.
You've got
this year, that's his team and his coaches, and
he's had a chance. He's had a chance to get rid of Carmichael. He's had that chance.
Yeah,
it's there for him.
It's one of those things. It's interesting in his presser yesterday, where they asked him about Taysom, and he was saying obviously he can fill all those roles, and actually we need to see him this year. So it was almost like DA. And again, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like whether or not DA turns around to Carmichael and says, look, you've got to cut loose a little bit. But then probably last year, the reason he didn't cut loose is because he was sort of abiding by the DA rule, which is let's keep it steady.
It does worry me that the coach that drafted Derek Carr needs to have his own head coach come in to share information about him. That terrified the shit out of me. I was like, does this guy not know how to use it?
Yeah.
Like,
Dan, you touched on that last week, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because defensive head coaches like to take care of the ball, eat up the clock, and be conservative.
That's one of the things I'm so excited for this season is our running game. I'm so excited for a running game. I think a running game. Do you know what?
Well, you text me, didn't you, straight away saying I love Jamal Williams signing. Love him.
Love him. That's a superb signing. And then drafting Miller as well, and having AK in there, like, and even Tatum, like people are saying, get down to the 5 and get to Williams. Well, give us Tatum as well. Like,
Yeah.
That's one thing that did annoy me. We didn't have that many times last season where we used Tatum in the right areas of the field.
Yeah, he'd get hot in games and they'd pull him out. You wouldn't see him again. Yeah, and it's similar to what we saw a little bit with Rashid in certain games.
I don't know if that was a health thing potentially.
Yeah.
The snap count, but
I think with the Rashid, I think actually I can't remember who it was. It might have been. I'm assuming it was probably Ross Jackson was talking about it, where obviously he was out with an ACL, wasn't he? And so he actually, he wasn't in any of the camps. So he wasn't taking any reps, and then suddenly he was healthy, but he didn't know the playbook at all. Just didn't know it. Had done no reps, so that the occasions where he had the big explosive, almost like one-offs.
Yeah, won me a lot of money running deep in those 2 games.
Yeah, just run deep. just run deep. But no, I might sound very doom and gloom, but my prediction doesn't say it's doom and gloom because that prediction probably wins the division and probably gets you number 2 seed, I reckon.
Without doubt.
What's just?
I mean, you're
mental to think.
Again, we don't know. I mean, God, yeah. The Eagles, you think they won't be as strong as they were last year. They've lost some key personnel.
They've brought in Swift at running back. They've lost Sanders, brought in Swift, and
but they also drafted well.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are the team to beat. Well, no one knows if anyone's drafted well. Like, I hate all this post-draft analysis. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, I'm happy with what we've done with the draft position. But I don't know if I suppose any good bit in the NFL.
Yeah, let's see him in the first 3 games, and then you can make a decision on anyone at that point. I think.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm excited.
All right,
I'm excited for the season start.
I've got a final question for you, mate.
Go on in.
All right. Obviously, apart from the Falcons, which team do you hate most in the NFL and why?
I'm glad you said NFL. We could have had a falling out because I knew what the answer would have been if you hadn't said NFL.
All right, let's not go down that route because
I'm joking. I know.
I don't hate you guys. I just find it funny.
So do I. Funny enough.
It's not the Falcons. It's different times, different eras. Like I hated the LA Rams for a long, long time just because of no local. Hate the Eagles just because of the fans. Dallas are just Dallas, and you just hate them. Apart from the Falcons, the Panthers, it's annoying me a bit, but I wouldn't say. But obviously, the Brady Buccaneers are despised because of the bandwagon. I can't actually answer that really.
Just say the Falcons then.
Yeah, the Falcons are the most hated team. Obviously, that's the only reason I'm trying to get tickets to Wembley is to go and watch the Jazz smash them.
You obviously, it's like you've got a carousel of hate them, which sort of operates over different periods and different years, and that's fine. I think a lot of
Vikings
Vikings
are up there as a random one.
Yeah, it's interesting because the older fans, they don't like the teams that were in the West.
Yeah,
so the 49ers and the Rams, and some of the
Rams
some of the newer fans don't like the Panthers because Cam Newton was so dominant for that period, beating us when they were sort of getting to. So it's interesting how it swings around.
Yeah, I mean the thing,
I think it is the Eagles at the moment. I think it is the Eagles.
I've got a dislike of the Vikings because the following year after the no-call game, I went back out to the city and I went to that game as well. The push-off.
It was a push-off. It was never a touchdown.
All day long. And yet again, it was like, Jesus Christ. I remember
Vikings
going into the French market with my wife the day after that game and just having a look around at some stuff in the market. And some guy was like, "Oh, you're right. Oh, where are you from? Oh, the UK. Oh man, what are you doing out here?" I was like, "Oh, I was at the game last night. I'm a Saints fan." He was like, "Oh, that was my second game. I came last year," and he was like, "Just don't ever come back to this city." And I was like, "Actually, I can't argue with that."
And what happened to the Vikings of the game in London this year as well. It was just
yeah, heartbreaking.
I had a couple of idiots sitting around them.
I poured a pint over a Vikings fan, so don't worry, I've made up for it.
Yeah, that was accidental, but I'm sure you enjoyed it anyway.
I had an absolute idiot sat next to me that came and was just
So Ben, are you going to any of the London games this year, mate?
Yes, so I'm planning to do. I'm definitely doing the one in Tottenham. I'm only doing one in Tottenham. Playing like the Bills versus Jags. I'm doing, and then
I think most fans, if they can make one game at Tottenham this year, it'll be that game, won't it?
So the Bills Jags, I can say now that me, Mike, Alex, Di, and Dan Hunt from the Discord are all going to that game together.
Excellent.
So we can have a little meet up. That'd be good.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm not paying. I give up trying to get hold of tickets on when it's free for all because the infrastructure is not there and everything just crashes. So I'm gonna probably look the weekend before on StubHub and get a face value ticket because touts can't send the student money for the Falcons.
That's what I was thinking of doing. I gave up my season ticket at Wembley.
Well, they've stopped doing them, haven't they?
They said they'd stop doing them, but they still offered me my ticket. So, and I said I don't want it. I said I'd rather do exactly what you said. If I've got the availability a week before, I'll check and get a cheap ticket.
Yeah,
I'll sit in the end zone or whatever.
Yeah, that's my plan. I don't mind sitting up and see it when and watch a game. I don't really care. I just want to go in and laugh at the Falcons losing. So I remember that's actually one of my favourite London games was when they played the Lions a couple of years ago in Wembley. And it was they were 21-0 up or 20-0 up at the half and lost.
Doesn't sound like the Falcons.
Lost 21-20 or 21-22 in the last week of the game. Complete second half comeback.
Was that the year Jamal Charles came over with the Chiefs? I think it was.
Yes, that was that same year.
Yeah. I think I went to the Jets Dolphins game that year.
Yeah, I seemed to get all three. So I took all, but you spent all the way.
That was the good old days, Ben, when they had a proper tailgate and you could.
That's the main reason I want to go back to Wembley is because of the tailgate.
But it's not there though, Ben. It's not there.
Why are we there this year?
All the areas where they used to have the tailgates they've constructed around it. Me and Dan went to watch the Super Bowl earlier this year.
Box Park,
Yeah. And Dan, you remember where we were? It's built up everywhere, and the tailgate.
I know it's all
hotel. Do you know where our hotel was? If you look directly sort of south out of our hotel, that's where all the tailgating was.
Well, I'm going up to Wembley in August, so I'm gonna have a little recce there. It's when your team does well over here, Dan, you go up there Wembley. It's quite nice.
Right. I think
we did a whole season. We did a whole season there, mate. A whole season.
Even though I support one of the teams in this argument, I think it might be a really good point now to wind this one up.
That's fine. We were, as I said, I didn't follow you both for ages because of the Tottenham Arsenal thing, and Tottenham I couldn't give a shit about. It's all Saints and it's all love, so it's all good. I take the banter.
Really appreciate that. Let me come on and talk to you guys. And
thanks for coming on. It's a really good chat.
Thanks for having taking the UK torch and running with it. And take it to the next level that I did. Carry on the good work.
We'll definitely have you back on, Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Right. Take care, guys.
Take care, everyone. We out.